This is Daan Klomp, and this is the YYC Soccer Podcast.
Hello and welcome to the YYC Soccer Podcast. My name is Jason Kmet, and my co-host is Scott Strasser. Hey, Scott.
Hey, Jason. How are you doing?
It's a good night tonight. I'm feeling good. My eye's feeling good. I'm down to one drop twice a day, and I think the eye is clearing up. I'm hoping that when I get to watch some soccer this weekend, I won't be straining to see out of that eye.
Yeah, I was going to say, you'll need those eyes for all the soccer that's happening in town this weekend.
Yeah. How about you? How's your week been?
Pretty good. I've been working the late shift at work, which is a little bit different than what I usually do. So I've been on the clock from 12 to 8, but that's freed up the mornings to do some gym stuff. I've been trying to get back into working out lately, and today was actually my son's birthday, so it was good that we got the morning together before I had to walk in. My wife kept him home from daycare today, so we actually went to Dairy Queen and got a blizzard because today is Miracle Creek Day, so it was all for a good cause.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Let's get to the soccer part here. So, if you are a new listener to our podcast, Scott, what is the YYC Soccer Podcast all about?
So we focus on soccer in Calgary at the amateur, collegiate, and professional levels. We talk about Cavalry FC and the Calgary Wild, but we also talk about lower level soccer as long as it has a Calgary-centric focus. So we discuss the players and the teams from Calgary's soccer community, all the way from the grassroots and amateur leagues up to the university and professional levels.
We've got lots to talk about this episode. We have a couple matches to preview, Cavalry versus Vancouver FC and Wild versus Halifax Tides. There's some other matches going on, some AMSL and Canada Summer Games, but I'm kind of bearing the lead here. One story that's probably bigger than all those right now went down today.
Yeah, thank God they made this announcement today and not on a Friday morning when we release these episodes. But yeah, announcement from Cavalry FC today that defender Daan Klomp has returned to the club after one season in Belgium. Our listeners are probably well aware of Daan Klomp's accolades when it comes to his 3 previous seasons with Cavalry FC. So this is news that really excited a fan base that has been going through a frustrating spell in the last month or two. And it's probably an announcement that other CPL clubs are not that excited about.
No, I'm imagining they're not. So definitely, I think we're gonna talk about that a lot more. Why don't we get out of our intro segment and get right into Cavalry FC?
This is Tommy Wilden Jr., and you're listening to the YYC Soccer Podcast.
So Cavalry FC does have a home match this Sunday against Vancouver FC. But yeah, as we mentioned, the big news of the week is the return of Daan Klomp, who comes back to the club after one season with La Louvière in Belgium. He really didn't play much for La Louvière, just 2 brief appearances according to his Transfermarkt page. So I'm not sure what his level of fitness is at right now, but this is Daan Klomp we're talking about, one of the best players that the CPL has probably had, and in my opinion, the best player to have worn a Cavalry jersey.
He's the most decorated and most significant player, I think, in the club's history. And yeah, even within the whole league, I'd say he's right up there as well. And not going to lie, we talked about this when he was leaving. Probably the player I've enjoyed watching most in a Cavalry kit. So yeah, it's great. I think this is, as you mentioned in the opening, a real injection of hope to the fan base who's been kind of all of a sudden sort of the slump they've been in has kind of been cast aside, and it seems like all the positive vibes are flowing right now.
Yeah, I mean, you ask yourself how much impact could one player have on a team's fortunes? But if you think about Daan Klomp, kind of has it all, right? Like, he's an amazing defender by CPL standards, but he also chipped in with 6 goals a season on average. He's a huge threat from set pieces, and he'll be bringing that back to Cavalry. So defensively, it's great news, but even offensively, and that has been an area that Cavalry has lacked in recent months. He's going to be a weapon for Cavalry's attack strategy. So, yeah, if you're going to inject, some optimism into a team that is players have been hanging their heads every game, it seems, no player could have had a more, I think, positive impact on the team's morale than the return of this particular one.
As you mentioned and alluded to, we don't know his level of fitness. In the press release that we received, it did say that he is eligible to play in this weekend's match. But yeah, it's hard to know how match fit he is. But let's face it, if there's ever somebody who can just slide in pretty much right away, he knows basically all the players. He knows the coaches. He knows everything is familiar to him. So if anyone can get up to speed ASAP, it's going to be him.
Yeah. And just, we may as well rattle off, we're talking about what a player he was for the club. We may as well rattle off some of his achievements. Played every minute of every game in 2023 and was named the CPL Player of the Year as well as the CPL Defender of the Year. In 2024, he played nearly every minute of every game, save for like one or two matches, I think. And he once again received the CPL Defender of the Year honor. And of course, in those 2 seasons, lifted 2 trophies with Cavalry, the CPL Shield in 23 and the North Star Cup in 24. So obviously played a huge role in both of those accomplishments, and just great news for the club. I do kind of I really wanted, I think you, Jason, as well, really wanted Daan Klomp to succeed at a higher level. We had interviewed him for the podcast before. He talked about his personal ambitions, wanted to play in MLS. We know that he went to Adelaide and trained with the A-League club for that Australian city shortly after he left Cavalry, but ended up moving to Belgium, a second division club in Belgium that got promoted. But with his lack of playing time, it always felt like he probably wasn't going to be sticking with that club when they made the move up to Division 1. So, part of me wishes that he was able to break into that team and become the first CPL player to play in Belgium's top flight. But from a Cavalry perspective, I mean, it's the best news you could have hoped for with 10 games left in the season.
So, Scott, I've been thinking about this all day, about how this all came together. Daan Klomp coming back to Cavalry. I originally was thinking it would be really unlikely. He'd indicated he was ambitious and wanted to try something else, and that he had accomplished everything he could in the CPL. So I kind of was thinking that maybe he was going to, still try something else before he considered coming back. But actually, I thought about it, and I think I've kind of figured out the thought process here. I think the way this worked out is that this is a very convenient setup for both Tommy Wheeldon Jr. and Daan Klomp. Klomp, it didn't work out with his team, and he's kind of stuck right now in the sense that other European teams have just gone into their season and they set their rosters, and there's no real super obvious immediate landing point for him over the next little bit. So he's kind of a little bit in limbo. Meanwhile, back here in Calgary, as we talked about, Cavalry's been in a slump and they need something to jar them out of this. And I think this is a really good setup in the sense that Klomp can come back. He can play right away. I think what will happen is that he's going to come back, help the team right now, and bring them back to a level where they can really compete for trophies again here. And it's also going to put him back in the shop window. I think that he can play, and if he can be dominant again for the remainder of the CPL season, I think by the end of the year, there will be interest in him again, and he might have a chance to move on in 2026 to another league like MLS.
And then Cavalry would get a big payday because whatever club wanted him would need to pay a transfer fee.
Well, here's what I think. And again, I don't know any of this, but this is my theory. I think that part of the agreement between Cavalry and Klomp is that come back, play for us this year, help us get out of this, get yourself some minutes, get yourself some playing time back in the spotlight. And we won't play hardball when it comes to a transfer or in the off season. If something comes up, we're not going to hold out for the last dollar. Remember how a couple years back, there was talk that there were interested parties in in Daan Klomp, and he was interviewed saying that Cavalry and the interested teams couldn't agree on a fee. I got a feeling that they've kind of made some kind of agreement that, you know what, we won't be super hardball on the fee. And if it doesn't work out, hey, you're under contract with us for the next couple of years, and it's great.
Yeah. I do wonder, I mean, I don't know how Cavalry was able to do this from like a salary cap perspective, but you have to assume he's probably taking a pay cut from what he was getting in Belgium, hey?
For sure. But, this is also part of my crazy theory here is that I'd be willing to bet that the way his contract is structured, he may not be making as much in 2025 as maybe he would want. But if he gets transferred out in the off season, then he get a big payday. Or if he does come back to Cavalry in 2026, I think his salary would probably, he'll get like a big bump up in salary in the second year of his contract. Again, this is all just stuff I'm theorizing, but I've tried to think about it on how this makes sense for him to come back right away. It's crazy theory, but that's kind of what I think happened. And I think that he's probably playing this year for a very low number. And if he comes back next year, the number will be much higher.
Well, it seems like he's really excited to be back. In his message in all the social media posts, he talked about how it would be like coming back home. So I do think that the city did have a really good impression on him. He's been living here since 2021, so definitely has developed a bond with Calgary and with Cavalry FC and its fan base. So I'm sure fans will be very excited to see him on Sunday, and we'll be hoping to see him take to the pitch. In terms of the game itself, Jason, we should just mention they're playing Vancouver FC, a team that is in last place still, but a team that recently beat Atletico Ottawa in the Canadian Championship semifinal first leg.
And convincingly, 3-1. I actually went through and kind of watched that game after I heard the result, and I was like, whoa, they looked good in that game. They played well, and yeah, they're going into the second leg in really good shape. Could you imagine if the Canadian Championship was Whitecaps versus Vancouver FC? That'd be kind of cool, actually.
In the final. Yeah, I would not have put money on that earlier this year, but no. And this is the first time Cavalry will play Vancouver under the tutelage of Martin Nash, who is serving as interim head coach there after the recent firing of Ashvin Gopi. I'm not sure what the game will look like on Sunday, but yeah, Vancouver, a team that has really struggled and is in the basement of the CPL standings, but they haven't lost to Cavalry this year, and they played 4 games up until this point. They may put up a really good fight again.
So, Scott, actually, I have the theory here, and I've seen it a few times before about the whole letdown. You've got the magic of the cup where you have a team like Vancouver FC that makes it this far and is doing well. But I also think that after a big game like that, I think it's not uncommon to have a bit of a letdown after that. So actually, I kind of have a feeling that it's going to be an interesting match. Martin Nash coming back, Jay Herdman coming back. But I also think, though, that there's going to be a bit of that letdown that teams have after a big cup match. So I'm going to predict a Cavalry victory by, I don't know about dominant, but a convincing victory.
I wouldn't be surprised if that happened either, to be honest. And yeah, it's called a cup hangover, and it's a pretty common phenomenon in football. So yeah, and plus you have to factor in that Vancouver really will have not had very much rest. They just played yesterday, yesterday being Thursday. So really just 2 days of rest before a flight to Calgary. So yeah, I mean, I can't wait for the match. I'm excited to see how it all shapes up and if Cavalry can get this Vancouver FC monkey off their back, because yeah, it's kind of phenomenal that a team that has never beaten Cavalry in their 3 years of history has also not lost to them in 4 matches this year and actually knocked them out of the cup on penalties not that long ago.
And we're not just going to see potentially Daan Klomp in the lineup. Tommy Wilden Jr. seemed to suggest Kenijia Elva will be back from injury. And we know that Ali Musi, his suspension is over. So there's definitely going to be some veteran offensive firepower added back to the lineup this week as well. So I'm sure that won't hurt.
This is Lydia Bedford, and you're listening to the YYC Soccer Podcast.
So we've spent a lot of time talking about Cavalry FC in this episode. Daan Klomp kind of gets our attention, but we don't want to forget Calgary Wild is playing a match this weekend. They're playing on Saturday at McMahon Stadium. They're playing the Halifax Tides at 2 p.m. So a big match for them.
Yeah, absolutely. This is a rare opportunity to catch both of Calgary's pro soccer teams at home in the same weekend. I think there's only really been one or two other match days where that has lined up. So, and the fact that the games are on different days make it, relatively easy to do so unless you have other weekend plans. But yeah, the opponent I think is a great one for the Calgary Wild, coming off of that impressive win over the Ottawa Rapid last weekend. Halifax, they're the only team below Calgary in the standings. They're coming into this one after a couple of impressive draws against Vancouver and Montreal. But before that, they were in a pretty rough run of form. And I think 3 losses and a draw, so 6 games without a win. Their last win was actually that 1-0 win against the Calgary Wild, which was back on July 7th. So they're a team coming into this one in a slump of their own, and Calgary is coming into it after a really positive performance and with a new signing of their own that we should talk about.
In the press release, they mentioned that this signing fills the 25th and final roster spot for the Wild. They signed Michelle Romero, and she is, I believe, 28 years old. She's a veteran player. She has 20 caps for Venezuela. She played in Copa America. Actually, she played every minute in Copa America. Is that right, Scott?
She played every minute of Venezuela's, I believe, 4 matches. So yeah, they got knocked out of the tournament. But yeah, she featured in every game for them at right back. And she's described in the Wild's press release as a fullback who can play either right or left back, and if needed, can also push up and play winger. So basically, anywhere she's needed on the wing, she'll be able to slot in. Curious to see that she appears to specialize at right back, considering that is the position of Grace Storty, who I thought has been really good all season for the Calgary Wild. But maybe this will create some good competition for the right back position.
I don't think that Grace Storty has too much to worry about. I think she's played really well. I think that the real issue here for the Wild is that they have no fullbacks available to play. Kaylee Books, she injured herself, more than a month ago. I don't know exactly the nature of her injury, but my understanding is when I tried to reach out to the Wild about her injury, they just said it's indefinite. So I don't know what it was and what the details were, but I don't think we can expect her back anytime soon. And the other player who has the ability to play fullback, and that's their natural position, is Tilly James. And she also has not appeared since she had that concussion. Remember when she got knocked in the head there in that one match? She hasn't played since. And I've also kind of queried about that one and also gotten the word back that, her absence is indefinite. So basically right now they've got Allie Green and Grace Storty as natural fullbacks. So there's no depth there. She can play minutes there, but she can also play minutes, further a bit higher up. So yeah, I think she's going to be a very useful player potentially, but I don't think she's knocking Grace Storty out of her regular starting role anytime soon. That's my opinion, at least.
Yeah, hard to tell. So let's just mention a few of the other teams and leagues she's played in. She's played in Venezuela's league for Deportivo Lara, as well as a team called Zulia. And then she's also played professionally in Spain with the likes of Deportivo La Coruña and Sporting Gijón and Real Unión de Tenerife. So yeah, really good pedigree. European experience is a boon for NSL teams. And I'm excited to see how she does in Calgary. She'll probably know Sonia O'Neill, I'm guessing. So she won't be a complete stranger to her new teammates. And I'm sure she'll slot in nicely.
One thing I was just going to mention before we wrap up on the Wild, because I know it's come up. It's been a bit of a mystery on our end, and I know even we've been asked on social media what's up. But Farkuna Mataj put up some information on Instagram about her injuries. So I just thought I'd mention this. People have asked us what's the deal? Why isn't she playing? Why hasn't she played the whole year? So anyway, if you want to check out her Instagram, she goes into a lot more depth about it. But the bottom line is that she got injured in December and she had been rehabbing for quite a while. And then she actually got back onto the pitch and she's re-injured herself. And I don't know the details beyond that. I would say right now that if anyone is kind of wondering where she's at and is she coming back anytime soon, I'd say the answer appears to be not anytime soon.
Hi, this is Anson Minty, and you're listening to the YYC Soccer Podcast.
So let's wrap up our episode with discussion of a few other Calgary soccer goings-on at the moment, starting with the Alberta Major Soccer League, which, we haven't really covered that much this season, Jason, compared to last summer, but regular season has wrapped and provincials are just around the corner, and they're actually happening in Calgary this weekend.
Yeah, both the men's and women's division are going to have their semifinals and finals at the Calgary Soccer Center. Semifinal matches are going to be Saturday in the morning and early afternoon, and then the finals will be on Sunday.
So in addition to the AMSL playoffs, we also mentioned last week that the Canada Summer Games are going on out in Newfoundland. I was kind of wondering if these games were going ahead because I know there's been a lot of evacuations and wildfire concerns in the St. John's area, which is where the games are taking place at the moment. But it does appear that games have been able to go ahead. The Alberta team has a lot of Calgary connections, particularly on the boys' side, I believe, and they are off to a really good start in their tournament.
In their preliminary round, they defeated PEI 3-0, and then they played Yukon, and that result was 8-0. And that put them into the medal round, the semifinal round, where on Thursday evening they played BC to see who could get into the gold medal match. And they were able to secure the victory in penalties. So they're off to the gold medal.
That's going to be against Quebec tonight, that being Friday, when most people listen to this episode. I believe, Jason, you put down here that the game is taking place at 7:30 p.m. Newfoundland time.
Yeah, I presume it's Newfoundland time. And I think there's a reasonably good chance that this match might be on either CBC Gem or someplace in the CBC universe. But yeah, big match, and good luck to those guys. And then next week we'll talk about the women's division. That starts next Tuesday.
Thank you for listening to the YYC Soccer Podcast. You can have this episode downloaded to your device as soon as it becomes available by subscribing on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or any other podcast platforms. You can check out our website at yycsoccer.com, where you can look through our episode archive and find other ways to listen, including our YouTube channel. We also have links to buy my book, Here Come the Cavalry, which is all about the history of professional soccer in Calgary. You can leave a question or comment in the Contact Us section of our website, and you can also interact with us on social media through websites such as Twitter, Instagram, or Blue Sky, where our username is @YYCSoccer403. Thank you for listening.